My name is Wardie. I'm doing this video testimonial for Dr. Garrett Smith, Nutrition Detective. Because I'm pretty private, I feel a little bit uncomfortable about sharing things publicly, so I'll probably not be too detailed, but I just feel so strongly that people ought to know about Dr. Smith and what he can offer and how he can help, that I'm willing to do this. And so I thought what I would do is just first start by sharing what my health was like that led me to looking for answers that I found Dr. Smith, what working with him has been like, what things have improved, things that might have surprised me, and then I'll just try to summarize everything. But stuff is like overlapping and they go together, so it's going to hard for me to be super organized. So bear with me, but I just think it's so important if you're having health challenges that you at least consider working with Dr. Smith, either through his DIY program or through working with him directly as his client. So one-on-one kind of client. All right, so I'll get into it. First, let me just share what brought me to Dr. Smith. So it was a little over a year ago, the beginning of 2022, and I'd been having health challenges for a number of years, but I would say throughout 2021, it was like, oh my goodness, what is going on with me? Because I was having so many problems. Up to that point, I was doing everything right. I mean, I have been following a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle for years, but yet I found myself having been hypothyroid for, I think, 5 or 6 years and on thyroid medication. For about that long, I was also taking bioidentical hormones for PMS and kind of hormone-related issues. And in spite of the thyroid medication, in spite of the hormones, I was so tired. Just deeply fatigued. Fatigued to the point where nothing was helping, and I couldn't push through anymore, where I had been pushing through for quite a while. I just couldn't anymore. So taking naps, just so tired, unable to work as much as I had. So it was pretty concerning. I also was having headaches, lots of headaches, actually for years, but for the past few years, it's like every day I was having a headache. And some were worse than others, but just to have a constant headache every day was pretty draining. And then I started developing these other issues completely out of the blue. My digestive system went haywire. And while I had been constipated for a number of years, I thought it was thyroid mostly related. Then my digestive system started cramping, bloating, pain, reacting basically to so many foods, and it was doing this for so many months that I concluded, and I didn't get a doctor's diagnosis on this, but I just concluded through my own research that it seemed to me a lot like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And doing the diet that was recommended for that did help to ease the symptoms. So that was another confirmation that I was thinking along the same lines, but you know, a diagnosis is a diagnosis. All I know is what I was experiencing, and it was miserable in my digestive system. Additionally, I developed histamine intolerance on top of that. So that made the headaches worse, and it was just itching all over to the point where it was disturbing my sleep and just bothering me a lot. Just to have a constant itch is like, what is going on? That's why at the beginning of 2022, I was sort of at my wit's end, because here I am doing everything right and I have all these problems. What's going on? Is this just getting old? Am I broken? I could control the symptoms through diet, so I just basically went to eating very few foods, low histamine, low FODMAP, and that did help. It kind of eased off on the symptoms, but I just wasn't getting better. And at that point, I talked to my friend Megan, and she had been working with Dr. Smith, following his protocol for 3+ years and having enormous success with it. And I've been watching her. Why didn't I try it sooner? I don't know, but God works in all of our lives. And for me, this was the crux. Just like, well, my diet's already so limited. I already feel horrible. What could it hurt to give it a try? And so at that point, I joined Dr. Smith's Love Your Liver program, just kind of as a DIY thing. And I started studying and trying things just one at a time, which is his advice. Keep it simple. You can't know what's working and what's not working if you're doing everything at once. Initially, what I did was just start cutting away my supplements, because I've been taking a lot of supplements, and then addressing like one thing per week. I would just start addressing that I learned from him, like the mineral potassium, the mineral magnesium, a diet change, cutting out some supplement that he said was probably not doing me any good. And those things alone, I started feeling better. And when I started feeling better, what I mean is my thyroid function started improving to the point where I was having hyperthyroid symptoms. And my local doctor said, okay, you have to cut back on how much you're taking. And my digestive system really calmed down and my histamine intolerance calmed down. So I started being able to eat more foods without having reactions. So all that was really promising. The other thing was just dealing with the minerals Dr. Smith talks about. Constipation wasn't so much of an issue anymore. And that's a huge relief. It's a huge relief when you don't have to worry about your digestive system bothering you all the time in this or that way. So I felt like enough things were improving that I figured I'm going to work with Dr. Smith directly. So that was probably, I'm a little bit messed up on the timing, but maybe 3 or 4 months in, I scheduled an appointment, a one-on-one consult with him. I did the blood work and I did the hair mineral testing analysis to see the mineral levels in my hair, had my appointment, and that began the stage of me working with him directly. And so 3 months I did it DIY, 3 or 4 months I think DIY, and then I've had appointments every 6 months with him for the past over a year. So I've had 2 consults with him, as well as attended lots of his office hours, which he hosts weekly, to ask questions and then listen in on other of his clients, because always learning something. So that's how I got into working with Dr. Smith and what led me, the health issues, and how I went from joining his DIY program into being a one-on-one client. Now let me just talk about what's gotten better, because I think that's the bottom line when you're working with any doctor is you want to get better. So let me just go through a list, if I can remember everything, all the things in the past year plus that have gotten better for me. So not only did I start having hyperthyroid, overactive thyroid symptoms and start reducing the medication within maybe a total of 6 to 8 months of starting Dr. Smith's Love Your Liver protocol. I was totally off of thyroid medication because I kept getting more and more thyroid function back. And so I just kept reducing my medication level. And I've since had blood work done on my thyroid and it shows all normal thyroid levels. So confirmed with the lab, confirmed with my body's symptoms, I'm no longer on thyroid medication. And that happened within 6 to 9 months. I stopped taking my bioidentical hormones. I feel what I learned from Dr. Smith is to just really test all your supplements and everything you're taking. And I had a suspicion that when I was taking bioidentical hormones, that they were contributing to the deep level of fatigue I felt, as well as to the headaches I was getting. I get headaches for multiple reasons. Mechanical, so I have some neck issues, which I'm doing therapy for that. But I also get headaches from histamine. I also get headaches for, chemical reasons like hormones, taking too much of a supplement that bothers me. So just the bioidentical hormones were contributing to that as well. Some of the hormones I stopped immediately, some I somewhat weaned off of, but over a fairly short period of time, I stopped taking the bioidentical hormones. And so the level of fatigue dropped. There was like this just incredible sleepiness that progesterone especially gave me, as well as dizziness. And then the headaches were better as well from not taking the bioidentical hormones. So that's good. Constipation is much, 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 much better now, a year plus later. So huge relief there. Fatigue is improving. I wouldn't say I'm not still tired, but I don't have that deep fatigue that I used to have where, wake up in the morning, can't hardly function, can't work, need 2 or more naps a day. It was just heavy fatigue. And I'm not so heavily fatigued anymore. I do still rest. I think it's still part of the healing process. So I do still take 30 to 60 minute nap midday. But even that, I'm finding it harder and harder to take that nap because I'm feeling not quite tired enough for that. But I still do it to rest my neck, and I still do it because I think my afternoon work time is better. Even if I have 15 to 20 to 30 minutes of sleep, I just think it's a help in the healing process. So I do continue to rest, but I'm just not so tired. And it just feels so wonderful not to be that tired anymore. I still have a little bit of it, the chicken skin arm rash on the back of my arms, and that is mostly gone. And everybody says that's a vitamin A deficiency, but it's really a vitamin A toxicity, according to Dr. Smith. And anyway, that is mostly gone. And that wasn't high on my list of priorities. It was just sort of something that was like, oh, that would be nice if it goes away. and it has mostly gone away. So thankful for that. My digestive system is way calmed down. I can eat more foods without digestive distress. So I'm so relieved about that, not to have to worry and not to have to, I can't eat fruit. I can't eat, there's just so many things that I can eat now without my digestive system cramping, bloating, and giving me gas and just all those kind of symptoms. I don't have to be as careful with histamine foods. This saves us money. Low histamine meats are expensive. A supplement you could take for that, DAO, I still use a little bit of it. It's the enzyme that breaks down histamines, but I don't have to use nearly as much. And anyway, I can enjoy more foods again that I had to cut out for quite a while. I cut them out. And what I want to stress here is that with the digestive issues and the histamine, you can control that with food. But what I'm seeing is, whereas prior to working with Dr. Smith, I thought, I'm going to have to not eat these foods for the rest of my life to keep this under control. But what I'm seeing is underlying healing, like there's a root cause underneath it that is causing the problem. And if you address the root cause, which is toxicities lessening, mineral deficiencies correcting, then your body can handle things it couldn't handle before. So I'm very thankful. My headaches are basically gone after having headaches every day for years. I am not having them every day anymore. I do have the occasional headache from either a mechanical neck issue or a food or supplement issue, but they are few and far between. And so the neck therapy, along with addressing my own body's deficiencies and toxicities, means that I just don't have the same, whatever load is causing the headaches, it's just not there anymore. So that's really, really great. I'm so thankful. PMS is just getting better and better. In fact, the past couple months, very few headaches. The last cycle or so, I didn't have the sleeplessness I have been having for years. So that has improved quite a bit. And that's a big relief, because as a woman, PMS can just drive you batty. Why do I feel so bad? Well, I've had several cycles now where I just don't feel that bad. And it's just like, this is not so bad. And as you get older, doesn't it usually get worse? So here I am, a 48-year-old woman, and PMS is not so hard anymore. So I probably missed some things, but that's a lot of things that have improved in a little over a year. So I'm so thankful, because most of those things were having a pretty negative impact on my life and my work. So I'm thankful. Now, some surprises. Whenever you're healing, I think it's probably within the realm of expected that you would have some ups and downs. One of the things that happened that has not been fun, but that doesn't surprise me, is I've been having trouble sleeping. And prior to this journey with Dr. Smith, I had been on bioidentical hormones for years. The hormones kind of made me sleepy, so I didn't have trouble sleeping. I always said, I sleep very well. Well, come to find out, it was sort of a hormone-induced sleep. So when I stopped taking the bioidentical hormones, plus whatever other detox things were going on, I've been sleeping poorly. And it's been very hard to go from getting a good night's sleep to another night when I woke up constantly or I never got a deep sleep. So that has been very difficult. And I think it was especially difficult in the 3 or 4 months post stopping the bioidentical hormones, but it has continued to be difficult. But just recently, like even in the last 3 or 4 weeks, working with Dr. Smith, he has those office hours, and I listen in practically every week. And a lot of weeks I do my own kind of check-in with him, and he just like, well, why don't you try this or why don't you try that? So just in the last few weeks, his suggestions basically flipped the switch on I can't sleep to I can sleep. Simple things. It's not like take a million supplements kind of things. They are just little tweaks with your diet and the supplements he does have you taking, which are so much less than I used to take. So a couple tweaks, and now I am sleeping. I slept through PMS. I'm sleeping practically every night. If I think back on the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think I only had 2 nights where I had any difficulty. One was from a headache, and the other one was actually probably from a headache too. So that just tells you I've had such fewer headaches, but I'm also just sleeping. I'm just sleeping better. And that is huge. So it wasn't fun to have this new symptom creep into my life, but praise the Lord and praying that it continues, that I am sleeping now. The sleep is possibly nearly fixed. I mean, it's not perfect sleep yet, but it was so bad before. And now it's so much better that I'm just thankful. I'm so thankful for it. So that was one surprise that was not fun to go through, but I'm coming out of. Another surprise is that I developed tooth sensitivity. Dr. Smith has theories behind that, but going with his tips, I I'm coming out of that now too, and my teeth aren't nearly so sensitive. So it's just one of those things where it's just like, that's no fun, but there are things you can do. And it's probably within the realm of possibility that, yeah, that kind of symptom could creep into your life. Additionally, a surprise to me that has come out of this whole entire process is to find out, and maybe my husband would say, oh, I knew this already, but I'm very sensitive. And so I was taking gobs of supplements before. All the supplements that everybody said and all the superfoods, and my body was so overloaded. It is no wonder I was tired and headaches and achy and it's just no wonder. So now I know how sensitive I am. I take very few supplements, actually. I do most things through diet and lifestyle, and I'm doing better. And now I know when I test something, I pretty much know immediately, if that was a good or bad, because I will not be able to sleep, or I'll have a headache, or I won't feel well, I won't be able to work, and my body will tell me right away. And I have tested things off and on through this period, and most of the time, there's a couple that I'm like, okay, now that's a winner, but most of the time it's like, that's not for me. So I'm sensitive, and that is what it is. I don't know why God made me that way, but now that I know, I can tread very cautiously, and I can be fine with, no, I'm just going to stick with the basics. And according to Dr. Smith, and I feel like I'm living proof, you can get well with the basics. It'll save you money, it'll save you grief, and you will still progress in the right direction. So that was a big surprise, or I might say a confirmation. Certainly something really good to learn about myself. Another surprise, and I can't say for sure, but this is the theory. So at the same time I was getting off the bioidentical hormones, I was having trouble sleeping, and I was also having hip and back pain that would keep me up night after night after night. And they were probably related. Those hormones were stored in my body, and once I stopped taking them, my body had to slowly let them out. And I don't really understand the mechanism of it, but it just took time, and that did resolve. Within 3 or 4 months, I stopped having that hip and back pain. So I'm thankful for that, but it wasn't fun to go through, but it was part of the journey. So now on the other side of it, I can say, all right, I'm thankful because I'm through that now. So those were just some surprises. Well, I guess I could end this video with, maybe you'd call it a summary. I just thought I would share the best parts of the past year plus, like why I'm so thankful for Dr. Smith and his Love Your Liver program and what he does. One of those is, I've already alluded to it, it's his office hours. So whether you do one-on-one or group consults with him, you get access to his office hours for 6 months, and he hosts them twice a week, every week. And you can ask your questions. You can also listen in with other people sharing their journeys. And so some weeks I don't have questions, but I listen and I learn something, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize. I will try that too. So office hours are amazing. And I just can't think of another doctor where you have that benefit. No doctor that I've ever seen has offered that. It's more like you have your yearly appointment, and in between, maybe they'll answer an email, but maybe not. So just the fact that you get to interact with Dr. Smith and get pertinent, timely feedback on what you're going through and what you might try. And that alone has been better than anything about this, and is the number one reason why I want to continue to work with Dr. Smith, is because those little tweaks that he suggests week by week have made the biggest difference in my journey, in the headaches, the fatigue, the sleeping, the aches and pains, just generally feeling better. I can credit to being able to check in at office hours. Another best part of this journey is the Love Your Liver community. It's full of wonderful people, a lot of them Christians, like-minded. It's a place where you feel comfortable sharing, and you know you can go to them with kind of anything. And they will chime in with their experiences and their insights and their journeys. And nobody's like, you have to try this. It's more like, this is what worked for me. And you can just get a lot of suggestions, a lot of feedback. I've asked questions for my family members and friends where I can't ask Dr. Smith because they're not his patient, but I can ask the community. And so my family and my friends have been helped just by this resource, plus just making good friends there. So I really appreciate all of you and Love Your Liver. One of the best things I've learned actually are the supplements, and I've cut out tons of supplements. I have just a few supplements that are just like the best ever for me, and they are magnesium, potassium, and charcoal. And I do have some others that I'm taking with Dr. Smith's help, but I would say those 3 have had the most significant impact on my health. And so I'm so thankful for them. I think those 3 things have had a part in every single one of the improvements I've seen, has been in part due to magnesium, potassium, and charcoal. And I honestly would not have pursued those as strongly and devotedly as I have had not it been for Dr. Smith and his community and just wonderful resources and information that you read and see and hear, and you're just like, wow, this is really important, really something to consider. Take them in turn, one at a time. I did do that, but they have had a major impact. So I would just come away from this experience saying, okay, so I'm sensitive, but these are my supplements and they really make a difference in my life. So that's been really great. So why I came into the program, what was wrong, the things that improved, the surprises, the best parts, like if I was just to say, this rose to the top. That's what I wanted to share today. And now I'll just conclude by thanking Dr. Smith. Without his insights, without his work, without his willingness to be different than anybody else, I just honestly don't know where else I would have found this help, because nobody else is researching and sharing and working with people the way Dr. Smith does. He really cares. He's willing to think outside the box. He doesn't go with the crowd. He really considers each person, and he remembers things. He just remembers some of my history, and so he can say, well, you reacted poorly to this, so I'm not so sure about this for you. Let's try this. We just need more people like Dr. Smith. I just wish there wasn't so much misinformation out there, and I am guilty of trying so many things in my life, the supplements and the superfoods and the this and that, and I do think it all contributed to why things were so bad for me a little over a year ago, and why I was desperate to do something different. And Dr. Smith is the one that had the something different that to me and our family made sense. Like, that is why I feel so bad. That is why things aren't going well, even though we're doing everything right. And the problem with all that advice out there and all the supplements and the superfoods that people say to eat is they either make you worse or they push the problem off for later. I just wish everyone would listen to Dr. Smith and stop taking all the supplements and eating all the superfoods without knowing what your body needs. Like, do you know really what minerals you need? Do you know if you're sensitive or not? And how can you tell if you're having 100, even if you're having just 10 supplements a day? How do you know? You don't know. Dr. Smith is the only one saying, step back, pull back, see what your body's doing one at a time. Don't be taking all that stuff. Let's see what your body can do, and then we'll address what your body needs. It's just so refreshing. So I'm going to stop this now and end with saying thank you to Dr. Smith. Thank you to my friend Megan for continuing to share so that I was finally ready. And also thank you to the Lord, because he is the true author of our health. And without him, there just would not be love in the world and good people spreading his love, like Dr. Smith and my friend Megan. And I also am so thankful to my husband and my family for supporting me all these years, but especially the past year where I've been getting better, and the years leading up to that where I didn't feel so good. They've been so good to me and supportive. Bye-bye.